Hi, welcome back. So today I'm doing my childbirth story time, I suppose, because so many people have asked me to explain it and it is a really long story, so I just thought it'd be easier to do it in a video since this is now what I'm doing with my life. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the story and then I've got some questions that people have asked me to answer, so I'm going to answer them, but I just thought it would make more sense if I made the story time and then answered the questions. Let's go! On the 10th of September 2018, I woke up and I got ready for school. I was fine, literally a normal day, and I went to get dressed and I put my trousers on and then I started bleeding like really heavily, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know, it just wasn't a very nice experience. So I took off like my school trousers obviously and I went to the toilet and I started crying and I said to my mum, I was like, I can't go to school today. And I was like, it's really not nice, because it was just scary to see how much blood had come out and stuff. No, that's really disgusting, isn't it? It was just a bit weird, so I thought I'd best take the day off school, and we were literally 2 days into year 11, so that was great for my attendance to start anyway. So I had the day off and my mum was like, just let me know how you are throughout the day, I'll ring you and make sure you're all right. And I was like, okay. And yeah, so I stayed at home, everyone had left the house and I was literally at home on my own because my dad was at work, mum was at work and my brother and sister were at school. So I started getting like really short like pains, which obviously contractions, but I didn't know. I just had a hot water bottle and a nice hot bath and I was sort of just fine. Anyway, the pains just got progressively worse over the day and I was crying because they were hurting that bad, and I was like, what the hell is going on, thinking that I was going to end up like having to ring an ambulance, and it was a bit worrying. My dad came home from work and my mum had told him to check on me, so he came in and he was like, are you all right? And I was like, yeah, like I'm fine, because I didn't want him to think something was really up with me, because I'm not someone like, oh my god, give me attention, you know. So I just was like, yeah, like I'm fine. And he was like, okay. And I came back upstairs and I ended up literally lay on my floor bawling my eyes out, like screaming, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, I'm so confused. And I obviously, because I was bleeding, I just thought it was really, really awful periods, but apparently not. Anyway, I was still like bleeding and I was just like, this is horrible. Blake's dad and my boyfriend at the time, he came after he'd finished college and nobody actually knew he was coming, but I said to him, I was like, I need you here because I'm in like really bad pain. Luckily my dad had gone out, so he came and I was crying to him and he was just like obviously cuddling me like boyfriends do. And then I think I was just like trying to chill out. I ran myself another bath, but I didn't actually get in it. I couldn't sit still. I was constantly moving because it just hurt that bad, and if I sat still for too long I was getting really awful pains and I was in such an awful state, and I took all my makeup off and everything at this point. And then my mum had finished work and she came home before going to pick my brother and sister up from the childminders, and she was like, are you okay? And I was like, no, crying. I was like, I'm in really bad pain. She was like, do you want me to ring an ambulance? And I was like, no. I was like, it's not that bad, because like I said earlier, I don't like people like fannying around after me, so I just thought, no, like there's no point. She was like, okay, well, if there's anything you two need to tell me, come and tell me. And obviously I knew what she meant by that. Like, I thought she meant like if we'd slept together, and I was too embarrassed to tell her. We weren't as close as we are now, so I was like, oh my god, I can't tell her, like, no. And she's now said to me that she had a feeling that that was it, but she like obviously wasn't 100% sure because I was bleeding. So I didn't tell her because I just thought, there's no way, like there is no way that is what's happen. Like, I don't need to tell her because that's got nothing to do with it. Blake, come here. So she said to me, I'm going to go and get the kids, just keep me in the loop sort of thing in case anything like really traumatic happens. And I was like, yeah, I will, but like, I'm sure it'll be fine. I just kept pacing up and down my hallway while she was gone. My boyfriend at the time was actually on my phone texting my mum the whole time, as I was in too much pain to be sat on my phone. And he was texting her saying like she can't sit still. And then I said, I need a poo. That's really TMI, but sorry. So he went and sat in my room whilst obviously texting my mum and told her that I needed a poo. And that's when she went into panic mode, because she has obviously had 3 kids. So she knew that's childbirth. Like, when you are about to have your baby, you feel like you need a poo. So she knew. So obviously she was sort of rushing to get home, and my childminder had said to her, if you need me to have the kids or anything, let me know. So I went to the toilet, and my boyfriend was texting my mum saying like she's on the toilet now, all that sort of stuff. And then I started like pushing, you know, like you do, and I was like, this doesn't feel right. And I was like, this is not like coming out my bum. Oh, this is so grim. I stood up, and in my bathroom there's like a mirror. So I looked, and I could just see, obviously it was Blake's head with all his hair hanging out of me, but literally like this much, like by the tiniest bit. And I was like, oh my God, all my insides are falling out. I don't know why I thought that. Like, I should have just been like, oh my God, I'm having a kid. But, you know, and because it was like black hair, even though he's blonde, I was like, that's not a kid. Like, no kid comes out with that much hair and pure like black. I sat back down, and I was sort of just feeling around, thinking like, what do I do now? And then I felt his ear, and I was like, right, okay then, this is what we're doing now. So I shouted my boyfriend, and I went, I can feel an ear. And he went, no you can't, you're lying. And I was like, I swear to God. And he was like, oh my God. Anyways, he panicked, and obviously I knew what was coming then. It all just got a bit scary, and I thought, what can I do to make this pain the least amount of pain that I can? I didn't have any pain relief because I was at home and I wasn't preparing for it or anything. I'd literally had 2 paracetamol in the morning, so obviously they'd worn off. So I had nothing, and I was like, this is hurting. So I just thought, I'm just going to push and get it over with the quickest I can. So I pushed and pushed and pushed. I was like punching the side of the wall, and when I tell you, it is a pain you can never feel until you actually give birth. I mean it. It's awful. When people say, is it really that bad? It's horrible. It's vile. But anyway, I had him in the toilet actually. He came out in the toilet. I picked him up out the toilet, and I obviously wasn't aware, but my boyfriend had ran downstairs. My mum had come back, and she went, she hasn't. And he just looked at her. She'd washed loads of towels, so grabbed as many as she could and brought them up. And it was literally 2 seconds after I had him, it felt like. And she grabbed him off me. And then she was like, you're going to have the afterbirth. And I was like, no, I can't do it again. Does it hurt? And she was like, no, like it'll come any second. And it just flopped on the floor. And then I just bled and bled and bled and bled even more. And I tell you, it looked like someone had been stabbed in my bathroom about 5,000 times. The floor was covered in blood. Blood was up the wall. Blood was up the bath. Blood was at the toilet. Blood was on my dressing gown. Anyway, after the afterbirth placenta, whatever you want to call it, had come out, I sat there and I looked at my mum and I went, I don't want it. Because obviously, you know, I was 15. not expecting anything at all like that to happen. I had nothing prepared, nobody expected it. And she went, "Don't be silly, Ellie," or something like that. I can't really remember. And I was like, and she was holding him, and I was sort of just sat on the floor bleeding because you can't do anything to stop it. My mum had told my boyfriend to ring an ambulance, and it actually turned out they hadn't. Ended up that mum had to ring an ambulance, and they came, and actually 2 ambulances came, because in case me and Blake would have been hurt, they had to have one separate for each of us. But we were both fine. Blake is absolutely fine. I was absolutely fine. I didn't have any cuts, like, you know how you can cut yourself when you give birth. No, didn't have any of them. I only grazed, which was actually really quite painful. But anyway, they came and they cut the umbilical cord. They let me get in that bath that I'd run earlier to get all the dry blood off my legs and everything. And I got in some pyjamas and my dressing gown. I went downstairs, my childminder was there, and they were all just stood around sort of doing what they had to do, the ambulance people. My boyfriend went and made me a cup of tea. I drank that, and then it turned out that my dad was on his way back. So my mum wanted us to hurry up because obviously it was all a bit like, whoa, and obviously dad's really protective. So I stood up and then I bled for all my pyjamas. So I had to take them off and strip off in the ambulance, which was fun. My boyfriend came with me in there. Then we heard my dad come back whilst we were sat in the ambulance, and the ambulance man, I will never forget this, he was like, "Do you want me to lock the doors in case he like tries to get in?" And we were like, "Yeah." And we heard him going, "Oh my god, what's going on?" We just left, like we just went. And I went to Worcester, which is about half an hour away from where I live. I got there and they checked me over, and we were both absolutely fine. There was nothing wrong with either of us. And I stayed in hospital for 2 nights, I think. And I'll tell you what, it was the worst experience of my life because I wasn't allowed my mum with me. So I was in hospital on my own with a baby that I didn't even know I was having. What is that all about? And whilst I was in hospital, my mum and my boyfriend's parents both managed to get everything together for when we came back, and I had a bedroom full of baby stuff. That it was just amazing. Honestly, what they did was incredible, and if it wasn't for my boyfriend, I probably wouldn't have got through being in hospital either. So I suppose he was alright then, but he's not my boyfriend anymore. So he ended up weighing £9.6½, which is actually quite a lot. And I don't know how I managed to like not have a bump. Now I'm going to answer some questions that people on Snap have asked me. Someone said, "What's it like being a young mom and how was the birth?" So obviously the birth was really traumatic, and I ended up having postnatal depression actually, which was really crap. But I'm over that now. And being a young mom, it's hard because you can't live the life that you want to live. Like I had this imagination that when I was 18 I was going to go out on the piss all the time because that's what 18-year-olds do, but it's completely changed, and I feel like I literally feel so much older than I am. Like I'm 17 and I feel about 20. It's actually quite funny, but I've grown such a great bond with my family now that I'm a lot closer to them than I was. So I suppose it's got its good and bad part. Next one is, how did you not know you was pregnant? Did you still have periods? Did your belly not grow? So I was still having intermittent periods, like you would say I'm on the implant now and my periods are really hit and miss. It was like that when I was pregnant, but obviously I wasn't sure why. And no, my belly didn't grow. I was literally skinnier than I am now. So I'll put a photo in of me and my mum now. One thing I didn't actually add was before I had him, at the end of August, so literally a week and a bit before, I actually went to Alton Towers and went on like roller coasters. So if I'd have known I was pregnant, I wouldn't have risked killing a child literally a week before it was due. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, everyone that knows me knows that happened. Someone put, "Did you know you was pregnant and where did you give birth?" Obviously I've covered that. I didn't know I was pregnant and gave birth in my bathroom in the toilet, so that was fun. Someone put, do you feel bad that you got the girl excluded for calling you pregnant and you actually was? So when I was at school, before I had Blake, a new girl joined our school and she said to me, apparently you're up the duff, and I was like, what? And I ended up having a huge meltdown about it because obviously I didn't know I was pregnant. So I was just like, that's so rude for some like random girl to come up to me and say that when she's literally joined our school that day. So in a way, yeah, I do feel bad because obviously it's really crap, but at the same time, like, I didn't know, so I can't really help it. But someone put, heard you went for a poo and a baby popped out. If that's how you want to put it, that's how you want to put it, I suppose. Then someone put, how come you chose the name Blake? Like, is there a meaning behind it? So basically, me and my boyfriend had always said if we were to ever have kids, we'd call the boy Blake. It was just always a thing. So when as soon as we had him, I was like, oh my god, it's Blake. Someone says, do you regret it? So I don't regret it because it's actually made me such a better person. I was a complete bitch before and now I'm actually kind of nice when I want to be. It was just before I took my GCSEs as well, so that's a point that I do regret actually. But then at the same time I passed all of my GCSEs as well, so go me. Someone put, were you angry at the dad? I wasn't angry at him because it takes two to tango and it was both of our faults, so. Someone asked, who does Blake live with? He lives with me. But he does go to his dad's, but he lives here and he's here most of the time. The last question is, what was the hardest part about your pregnancy? Blake is adorable and you're such an amazing mum, so thank you whoever said that. I can't answer what the hardest part of my pregnancy was, but the hardest part of having a kid was definitely taking my GCSEs, as it was really stressful and I wasn't in school because I was having time off. But I actually went back to school after 3 weeks. It was just hard to sort of switch between being a mom and revising for my GCSEs. Like, it wasn't what I expected, but as I mentioned, I managed to pass them. So yeah, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and like because you know we gain.